Gal Gadot destroys Rachel Zegler over negative comments. Rachel Zegler's private affairs are now publicly visible because Gal Gadot decided she had had enough. No one is discussing the evil queen's cheekbones or the storybook magic in the recently released live-action Snow White. The turmoil behind the scenes is the main topic of conversation, and boy, is it bringing the soap opera to life. Gal Gadot and her co-star were having a lot of serious problems, but you never know what started it all. Unbelievably, it was just one Instagram post. Rachel celebrated the premiere of Snow White by posting a passionate homage on her Instagram on March 21st, 2025. It was heartfelt, introspective, and filled with backstage embraces, smiles, and gratitude to all of the wonderful people she collaborated with. She stated she changed so much during those 4 long years on set, and she even referred to the movie as life-changing. That is sufficient time to transition from a beginner to a red carpet regular. Fans began to notice one very clear thing missing, though, as they were happy to be a part of her beautiful reminiscence. Where had Gal Gadot gone? Rachel didn't even have a vintage selfie with her, and she wasn't named or tagged. Gal was completely out of place for someone who played the movie's renowned Wicked Queen and practically shared top billing. Fans were suddenly analyzing this social media snub rather than discussing the outfits or the cinematography. Was there any shade? Was it quiet? Or was there more going on? The rabbit hole gets much dirtier, so if you thought this was just a forgotten tag, fasten your seatbelt. Theories began to surface, and they weren't particularly nuanced. Politics was at the top of the list. Regarding the Israel-Palestine problem, it turns out that Rachel and Gal are not at all in agreement. In contrast to Rachel, who has publicly shown her support for Palestine without whispering it, Gal, who is Israeli, has long actively backed Israel. Her Free Palestine tweet during filming apparently caused a storm, and it wasn't the kind that just quietly passed by. There were rumors that the "we're just here to work" mentality may have been more about survival than camaraderie, and that tensions on set increased. However, other factors outside politics distinguish these two. Let's discuss their life away from the spotlight. Gal has been married since 2008, is 39 years old, and has 4 children. Her family-first attitude shines through in her red carpet dresses. Rachel, on the other hand, is 23, newly stepping into superstardom, still figuring out how to balance award shows with apartment hunting. You won't find these women exchanging skincare advice in a trailer, at least not without a hint of polite embarrassment hovering over it. These women are genuinely living in 2 different planets, and sometimes that gap can feel like a chasm. This is where it becomes even more juicy, though. On March 15th, 2025, both actresses attended the film's major Los Angeles premiere together, despite all the rumors and whispers. The fans witnessed everything, even though they posted side by side for the cameras. Their body language was rigid, their smiles were tight, and the light in their eyes was most clearly not due to enthusiasm. It reminded me of 2 coworkers posing as HR best friends at a party in the company. They weren't really friendly with one another, despite their professionalism. Suddenly, each red carpet picture became a clue to the unsolved question of whether Rachel and Gal truly detested their jobs together. Then something changed. Rachel attempted to steer the discussion. She began discussing in interviews how women in Hollywood are always positioned against one another, and how it's critical to encourage other actresses. She never really brought up Gal, despite the fact that those are some strong words and an important message. So naturally, fans started decoding her statement like it was a riddle. Was she throwing shade while pretending not to? Or was she trying to say, "Move on, there's nothing to see here"? Let's now discuss the actual impact of all of this on Disney. And here's a hint. For those guys, things are not going well. You would think that they would be enjoying the success of yet another box office hit worth billions of dollars. However, the studio reportedly shortened the premiere because they were in damage control mode, and the drama was taking over the news. There was no lavish red carpet extravaganza or enormous press junket, only a little rollout. It was almost as if they hoped no one would inquire too much, except that everyone did. When the tension surrounding Rachel Gal was added, Disney found itself in a PR problem that was beyond their capacity to manage. But wait, it doesn't end there. On top of everything else, Disney has also been handling major backlash about their casting choices. At first, it seemed fantastic when Disney announced in June 2021 that Rachel Zegler would be our new Snow White. Her voice is virtually made for musicals, and she is young and quite skilled. Director Mark Webb was ecstatic, describing her vocal prowess as only the first of her talents. She provided power, knowledge, optimism, and pretty much everything you could possibly want in a princess in the current era, he remarked. Even though the casting crew was thrilled, not everyone was applauding. The reason for this is that Snow White has always been said to have skin as white as snow, as the name quite obviously suggests. When discussing the character, it's practically the first thing that people bring up. Thus, there were many questions when Rachel, who was of Polish and Colombian ancestry, was cast in the part. Everyone from political pundits to movie critics had something to say in the booming comment sections. Being a Latina Disney princess at last excited some people, but others, particularly those on the conservative side, did not like it. Then, with all guns blazing, Ben Shapiro joined in, arguing that it was going too far from the actual plot of the narrative to have a Latina actor play Snow White. Now that all of this was going on, Rachel didn't keep quiet. Instead, she spoke up. She also celebrated her casting rather than merely defending it. She said she was proud, honored, and even a little stunned that this opportunity came her way, because when was the last time you saw a Latina actress cast as a character who's historically been portrayed as the palest person in the room? Many people who had never previously seen themselves in a Disney fairy tale found the representation to be powerful, but Rachel went farther. She pushed the discussion along by reminding everyone that the emphasis should be on talent rather than skin tone. She discussed how Snow White is adored in Spanish-speaking nations and how this part was a chance for an entire generation of children to witness someone who resembled them in a princess gown, in addition to being an opportunity for her. It's strong stuff. If you thought it ended there, you were mistaken. Because there was a deeper, more complex question hidden behind all the applause and fury. In the modern world, what do we do with these timeless fairy tales? Can they develop alongside us, or are they untouchable? Disney clearly chose the latter. They didn't just cast Rachel, they rewrote the story too. In this version, Snow White isn't named after her complexion. She got her moniker from surviving a real snowfall when she was a baby, a near-death experience rather than a quality of beauty. That is a twist. According to Rachel, this iteration of Snow White is all about resiliency. Strength, survival, and self-realization are more important than being the fairest of them all. It's summed nicely in one of her quotes. One of the core points in our film for any young woman or young person is remembering how strong you actually are. And just like that, a tale that's been told since the 1800s got a 21st century makeover. But not everyone bought into this evolution. Critics said the changes stripped the story of its roots. They felt that the symbol was important and that Disney was bending too far to be woke. Some people saw the casting as a beacon of progress. Others saw it as unnecessary tampering. And in the middle of it all was Rachel, simply trying to do her job and smile through the firestorm. In the meantime, insiders and cinema historians began to offer more expansive perspectives. Right now, there is a cultural conflict between the desire for representation and the preservation of tradition. Disney was obviously picking a side when they put Rachel in that famous garment. Here's the problem, though. Although this casting choice may have angered critics, it also provided Disney with a huge opportunity to reconsider the way stories are conveyed. Consider how often we have seen the same stories about pale-faced princesses. Whether you liked it or not, this was an opportunity to change the course of events, and it got people talking.